All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here. Welcome to City Government Explained. I believe this is our seventh meeting. We have one more next month. My name is Ryan McLean. I am the Assistant City Manager for the City of Diamond Bar. I've been with the city and the City Manager's Office for over 20 years now. I started in the Parks Department before that back in, I think it was 1997, if I remember correctly. So I've been with the city for a while. I grew up in the area, I went to school in the area, and so I have a bit of a background of just in general the city, as a resident and then as an employee over the last 20 plus years. This program, we'll talk a little bit about it on the next few slides, but the goal here is really to provide you with an opportunity to learn more about the city, provide some interactivity and engagement with city staff, maybe representatives, and share a little bit more about what's happening in the city and give you the opportunity to ask questions and just get to know us a little bit. So a little bit about the City Government Explained program. Again, this is an 8 meeting series that we've done now for I think 4 years. We usually meet here in the Windmill Room, and each topic covers, or each session covers a different topic. You'll see a lot of different cities out there that have what they call citizens academies. These citizens academies are usually like you kind of sign up and they give you kind of a education about the city. They require you to be there throughout the entire program. Ours is a little different in that it's more of a drop-in type program where you can come out and learn more about the things that you want to learn about. So there are different topics each time we have a meeting. If you're interested in the budget, you can come to the budget meeting. If you're interested in some of our traffic mitigation efforts, you can come to that meeting. So it's a little unique in that regard. We will have time for questions and answers. We have a small group, and so provided that it doesn't slow us down too much, feel free to raise your hand. I'll do my best to answer the question. I do ask if you have questions related to something outside the topic tonight to save those for the end. I'll stick around and answer your questions as long as it takes, with the caveat that if I don't know the answer, I'll let you know that right away, and then I'll get back to you with an answer to your question once I'm able to get you the correct information. You probably received a ticket. If you didn't receive a ticket, let me know. We do have prizes at the end, raffle prizes, and out of our swag that you can go home with, but you gotta be here at the end to receive those. This program, again, it's open to anyone age 13 and older. So if you know anybody that might be interested, even if they're in middle school civics, we welcome them, bring them out. We hold them here at City Hall, 6 to 7:30 approximately. Most months, we take a few months off in the summer so that you can attend our concerts in the park and movies in the park. And then of course during December, we're quiet because of the holidays. So again, the point of this is to give you an opportunity to learn more about the city, to engage with your representatives and your city staff. And I hope that this can be something that's valuable to you and you can take something away from it, learn a little bit, and ask the questions that you need to have answered. So a few things to know. I'm sure you've already figured this stuff out. We have notepads and pens available for you, so feel free to take notes. When we take questions, if you feel more comfortable saving them to the end, jot them down, and again, I'll stick around and answer them. You can answer them in front of the group, or you can come see me on your own afterwards if you'd rather ask the question in a more private manner. There are plenty of snacks and drinks in the back. Help yourself. Feel free to go back and grab whatever you'd like at any time during the meeting. Restroom is out those doors to the right. You make a quick left right in front of the library doors, and the restroom's there. And obviously, feel free to use that as you need to. We will have a few quizzes in between. We tend to break these presentations up into different sections, and then we'll have quizzes in between. We'll answer them all together, no pressure there. You're not going to be graded or anything like that. It's probably more reflective of how well I've presented the material to you than anything else. And so we'll do that in between just to break up our topics and make sure that we're covering what we need to. There are feedback cards on the table. Feel free to fill those out once you've had an opportunity to participate tonight. We do take those comments seriously. We've made adjustments over the years based on the feedback that we've received from participants like you. And so, again, share honestly what you think about the program, what you'd like to see, and we'll do our best to incorporate that in future versions of this program. So we're going to have 4 sections in our presentation this evening. The first is just a basic overview of the Diamond Bar City government. We'll follow that up with how our public meetings are held. We'll talk about city council meetings in particular, and then how the city council takes action. So let's get into the overview of city government. Bear with me here, my voice is a little shaky tonight. So if I pause, I'll try and make it through.
What's your name again?
My name is Ryan McLean.
Ryan McLean?
Yes. So we'll start by talking about how Diamond Bar is a general law city. This means that we're required to comply with all state laws. Our power is vested based on the state constitution and the laws that are applicable to general law cities. We are not a charter city. Some of the bigger cities in California are charter cities, and essentially what that means is they have their own local constitution, which gives them a few variables as to how they can operate as a local government. But ours is a general law city with a council manager form of government. So the city council sets policy, and the city manager is hired under a contract basis to then provide the day-to-day operation of the city and to implement the council's policy direction. The city incorporated back in 1989, and that was a citizen-driven initiative. And so at the time, that was the third attempt at incorporation by local residents. I believe they had made attempts in 1983 and 1985. Those two were unsuccessful, but in 1989, by a pretty overwhelming vote, the citizens were able to incorporate. When they incorporated, the city council was created. And the city council is a 5-member body of residents like you that were elected to take the lead and set policy on your behalf. At that time as well, when establishing the city council, the council manager form of government was put in place. So again, the city manager is basically the chief operating officer, chief executive officer for the city that reports to the board, which is the city council if you're looking at it in kind of a business type lens.
Is there a contract role, the council manager?
The council manager form was set up when the city incorporated, but the city manager is hired under a contract, yes.
Okay. And is there a term limit for city manager, or whoever is the city manager stays?
The city manager serves at the pleasure of the city council. So there's no set term limit. It's not an elected office. It's a contracted office. And the city council makes a decision as to, who serves in that role and for what length. So let's move on to areas of responsibility. Under the California Constitution, the city has the authority to make and enforce local laws. These are ordinances, that's what they're known as, and we'll talk about them in a little bit more detail as we go along, how they're created, the process that goes forward for presenting and approving local laws. Those laws, no matter what they are, cannot conflict with state laws. So the city cannot implement a local law that is in conflict with state law. The power that the city has is granted, as I mentioned before, through the state constitution, and then subject to any limitations of state law. And again, we cannot conflict with anything that the state has implemented. We can enforce local laws based on local police, public safety, sanitation, and other ordinances and regulations that are more local in nature. And we also have the ability to regulate land use. That's one of the main responsibilities of the city on a local level. Looking at what zoning is in place, what types of development is regulated within the city. We also have the ability under the general law status to allocate public funds. Every year, the city council adopts a budget. That budget sets the spending priorities for that fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from July 1 through June 30th of the following year. And when you look at the budget, it essentially sets the priorities for the city council as it operates services for the community. So public safety, parks, public works services, street improvements, other capital improvements. Those are all local decisions that the city has the authority to choose. So the governing body, again, is the city council. It is a 5-member council. The council makes decisions as a body. We do not have a strong mayor system, and so each council member has an equal vote. The council can enact laws in all of the different categories that I discussed previously, allocate funds, that's the budget process. They can also establish boards and commissions and other committees that examine policy decisions that will be before the council as they make decisions. Under the council manager form of government, again, there's a kind of a collaborative way that they make decisions. You'll see in some cities they have a directly elected mayor. That mayor may have more decision-making power than the rest of the city council. In Diamond Bar, again, each council member has their own vote. Each vote is worth the same. And that vote establishes, under a majority vote, would then establish policy. That policy is provided to the staff under the direction of the city manager to go implement. The way the council makes decisions, again, is collaborative. It's an attempt to provide policy that meets the best interests of the community. And those are all reflected, again, mostly in the budget priorities that then fund the services that are provided to the city, the public safety services that are provided by the sheriff's department, and the different events, facilities, and programs that are offered by the city through those funding decisions. The commissions that the council has the authority to establish, those are in general advisory bodies to the city council. There are 3 commissions. Those include the Planning Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, and the Traffic and Transportation Commission. And the only one of the 3 that has any real decision-making authority is the Planning Commission. They can make some approvals of projects and land use decisions. The rest of the commission decisions are advisory in nature. And so they may receive a report or testimony from staff or members of the public. They may make recommendations to the city council for different policy matters related to park programming, if it's the Parks and Recreation Commission, development of a new park, the design of a new park, if it's that commission, ways to improve traffic flow, if it's the Traffic and Transportation Commission, opportunities to improve traffic safety. Those are examples of things that those commissions might hear during their meetings. Those are all publicly accessible meetings and publicly noticed meetings, and you're welcome to attend those at any time. All right,
But the
so
recommendations can always be rejected by the governing body. Is that how it is?
yes, so they are advisory in nature, which means that they provide their feedback to the policymaking body, which is the council, and then the council can decide to move forward with those recommendations, modify those recommendations, or reject those recommendations.
So where does the citizens' input come into the picture?
Resident input is a part of any public meeting that we have. So at a commission meeting, we have a public comment period. At a council meeting, we have a public comment period. The lines of communication to the council members and staff are open at any time, and if there's a comment for a meeting, even if it's received via email, we provide that in the record for that particular meeting. And so throughout the process, there are a number of opportunities for members of the public to participate, and I'd encourage you to do so. Come to meetings, voice your opinion, call, email, provide comment. All of those things go into the decision-making process. Yes?
Right, thank you. So could you explain a little bit more about the city council meetings? And specifically, you say the city council decisions are collaborative. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean the city council gets together at a time?
No, the city council must, all decisions of the city council must be made publicly and are subject to a vote. And so the collaborative nature of those discussions would be made in a public setting. They would receive testimony, they would receive a report, they would read the staff reports that are provided to the city council in advance. All of those things are ways that they make decisions. Ultimately, different members of the council may have different opinions, they may have different approaches, they may have different politics. All of that stuff plays into their decision-making process. And so the collaborative nature of it is in the manner that they receive the information, and then their ability to work closely together in the process. If you come to our meetings, you'll see that they are, by and large, very cordial meetings, and they work together even when there are differences of opinion and approach.
Well, specifically, I'm wondering, can any one single city council member create a motion on something? Like, for example, let's say one city council member was noticing we might need another crossing guard for the school, and they say, hey, I think we need another crossing guard, and then they deliberate over that. I'm wondering.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about how the meetings work in the rest of the presentation, but essentially what happens in that case is if an individual council member has an interest in placing something on the agenda, they raise that during their comments, and if they get consensus from the remainder of their colleagues on the council, they'll direct the city manager to bring that item back. You can't make a motion and take action on an item that is not noticed on the agenda. And so it would have to come back at a later meeting, provided the council wants to do that.
Okay, and how does something get on the agenda? I mean, backing up, how does it even happen?
So the city manager is in charge of putting the agenda together, but the city council, as I mentioned previously, can raise a new idea, whether it's the crossing guard that you mentioned. And if a member of the council wants to add a crossing guard during comments, they can say, I'd like to raise the idea of bringing another crossing guard in and have the city manager analyze the impacts on the budget and so forth. If the remainder of the council agrees to that, then we go and we put it on a future agenda once we've completed the background work as staff. You're welcome. All right, let's get to the quiz. We're going to start with kind of the purpose and authority of city government. What form of government does the city of Diamond Bar operate under? Feel free just to shout it out. Is it council manager or mayor council? Council manager, that's right. Local government powers are granted by A, the California Constitution, B, California Constitution and state law, or C, state law alone. It's B, California Constitution and state law. Which of the following is not an area of responsibility under city government? Is it trash collection, public works, public safety, or municipal courts?
Municipal courts.
That's right. The city does not operate municipal courts. We work with the Pomona Superior Court Office. All right, we'll move on to section 2, which is a little bit more about public meetings. And I might have jumped the gun a little bit now that I look at the next slide, but we'll get into the details about the commissions. So as I mentioned before, there are 3 commissions. There is the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Traffic and Transportation Commission. These meet on a regular basis. Again, these are all noticed meetings that are located here at City Hall in this room. And every one of those meetings, there's an opportunity for you to speak, have public comment. Again, I would encourage you to do so. If you're here tonight and you're taking time out of your night to participate in this, I can imagine you'd have an interest in participating in our commission and council meetings as well. So a little bit about what each of the commissions do. The Parks and Recreation Commission oversees development, maintenance, and improvements of parks and facilities, recreation programs and activities, the contract classes that we have at the Diamond Bar Center, special events like concerts in the park, Winter Snow Fest, Halloween Party, which is coming up. All of those things fall under the purview of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Those meetings are on the 4th Tuesday of every other month, starting in January. And that's located right here, 6:30 in the Windmill Room here at City Hall. The Planning Commission. Planning Commission is a land use advisory body and in some cases a decision-making body. Their purview includes the general plan, amendments to the municipal code related to development, reviews of architectural, site, and master plans of different projects, environmental studies, anything associated with land use. The Planning Commission is a little different than the other 2 commissions in that it meets twice a month. That is to facilitate the quick review and procedural matters associated with any development projects. Those may include some home renovation or remodel projects. And so we have those meetings twice a month so that we can make sure to keep those projects moving. Again, 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of every month in this room at 6:30. Traffic and transportation will look at and review the development of systems, facilities, plans, policies, programs, anything related to our transportation and circulation infrastructure, travel within the city. As you can imagine, given the unique location that we have, right next to one of the busiest freeways in the nation, the fact that we're nearby on the edge of 3 counties, LA, Orange, and San Bernardino, not too far from Riverside County. And then you pile on top of that we're in a Southern California region with 20 million people, 2 major ports that bring in 40+% of all of the goods movement activity. Traffic is a big deal. And the circulation and improvement of the traffic flow throughout the city is always a top priority. This commission is deeply involved with projects that are meant to improve and maintain our traffic system. And the Traffic and Transportation Commission meets the second Thursday of every other month starting in January, again, 6:30 here in the Windmill Room at City Hall. Excuse me. So City Council meetings. These are held on the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. in the AQMD auditorium right across the street. On occasion, there will be a closed session before or after, or a study session before or after. Those are noticed along with the regular agenda that goes along with that particular meeting. And so if you have interest in the topics that are on those, you also have the opportunity to attend if it's a study session and provide comment. And if it's a closed session that's confidential and only with staff and the council and attorney, you still have the opportunity to provide public comment on whatever is on that agenda as well. And again, all of those things are noticed as part of the agenda that goes out prior to any council meeting. We have a hybrid format. So when COVID happened, we basically one day had to throw all of our normal routine out the window along with everybody else in this room. We all had to learn how to live totally differently than we did before. And that includes providing access to government meetings. So when we couldn't all be in the same room, we had to figure out a way to operate. At that time, we used different streaming platforms, meeting type software, Zoom, GoToMeeting, webinar, all those different things. When we were able to go back to in-person meetings, we kept the hybrid format so that there's an opportunity for you to participate in a meeting, even if you're not able to attend. We found that that gives more opportunity for people to participate, and it kind of diversifies the people that are able to attend. I speak for myself. I have a young daughter. I'm not able to attend my city council meetings in the city that I live in because they don't have that option. If they had a hybrid option, I could at least call in. If I was at home helping her with her homework, I'd be able to at least call or listen in on the meeting since I couldn't be there in person. That's been something that is a nice addition. I think it enhances the engagement opportunities. You can tune in via your computer and watch. You can call in via phone. We also, again, accept your email comments that are entered into the record and presented at the entrance to the meeting in case anyone's interested in reading the comments that were received via email. And that really, again, is all about more accessibility, engagement, and opportunity to comment. And so if you're not able to meet in person, if you're not able to come down to the AQMD auditorium, come up to the podium and speak, you can call in and provide your comments live in the meeting via phone. Yes, ma'am.
Brian, could you please tell the class the wonderful online registration that they can sign up for so they can be notified in their own email about the meetings?
Yes, at the end of the presentation, one of the last slides has all of the different ways that you can get notified about different things, ways you can contact me, social media. There's a subscription, a bunch of different opportunities to subscribe. You can subscribe for agenda delivery, where you put your email in, the agenda will be delivered to you as soon as it's published online. You can get our newsletter on a weekly basis to learn about what's happening in town, what new businesses have opened, programs that are happening. All of those things are available. We have social media and all that. I'll get to that at the end, but we do have that opportunity, and thank you for bringing that up. In addition to the hybrid format, the in-person format, we do have it available online through streaming services. You can watch it on YouTube. It's on cable access channels. Channel 3, if it's FiOS, and channel 47, I believe, on, actually, hold on. Spectrum is channel 3, Frontier FiOS is channel 47. Now, I know a lot of us have moved away from cable type services, and that's why our community relations department has worked to put it on YouTube, and we're also working to get it on Roku, and I believe Apple as well, on the streaming services through those apps, because we recognize that not everybody has cable any longer, and the whole paradigm has shifted with television delivery. So in all those cases, there are a number of ways to watch, to participate, to call in and provide comment. So all of our meetings, as you probably can imagine, are subject to a state law called Brown Act, which is essentially the open meetings law for all public meetings. So any of the meetings that we have with our city council or any of the commissions that are established by the city council require there to be public access. We have to notice them a minimum of 72 hours in advance. That would be Friday evening usually. We tend to put our agendas out Thursday. So if you're signed up on the email subscription list, you'll see it come into your mailbox on Thursdays usually. But the minimum requirement per state law is 72 hours prior. There are some exceptions to that. If it's a special meeting or if it's an emergency meeting, that time is compressed, but those are few and far between. If it's an emergency meeting, we basically can just post it. If it's a special meeting, it requires 24 hours minimum notice. But again, that's a very rare occurrence. In all my years here, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that's happened. So the reason for the Brown Act is to ensure that the public is aware of what's going on, that they have ample notice of the meeting so that they can read the reports, prepare themselves, do their own research, come in and be prepared to provide comment. There are very limited issues that are not deliberated on in public, and those include personnel matters, matters of litigation in which the city council is conferring with its city attorney. If there are real property negotiations, those are conducted confidentially in closed session, and any public security matters. So yes, ma'am.
Can you help us understand the real property negotiation? I understand labor, that's mostly related to, I'm assuming, your personal, your budget within the city council conversations, but trying to understand what is real property negotiation.
That would be if the city was negotiating to purchase a property from a property owner.
Got it.
And those negotiations are allowed to be done in a confidential setting so that you don't compromise your ability to negotiate the best deal.
Got it.
So that's what the real property negotiation exemption would be for a closed session. But the remainder of the public's business is done in open session with reports that go along with each of the agenda items. There's an opportunity again for public comment. And that public comment period is on every single agenda that the city council offers. There's a section at the beginning for public comment that's any matters that are not before the city council that evening. If the city council has a public hearing on a specific item, they'll open up comment for that during that period as well. And if there's any matter of council consideration where they're deliberating about policy, they'll open it up to comment during that period as well so that the public can listen to the presentation and provide their input as the council makes decisions. So let's talk a little bit about study sessions. These are held in room CC8, which is a room that's kind of behind the auditorium at the South Coast Air Quality Management District right across the street. These are a little bit more informal. These are discussion periods in which a matter is presented to the city council for feedback. Ultimately, the council can direct staff to come back in open session for deliberation and a decision, but the council does not make decisions in study session. Those items usually are direction to continue work or prepare a matter for the council to consider in open session. So a good example of when we use a study session is the lead up to the budget deliberations in June. We will often bring different sections of the budget. It is a very big document. It's 200+ pages. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of different pieces that go into that budget document. There's a lot of complexities. And so to make it fully transparent and understandable for the decision makers and members of the public, we do study sessions prior to the budget adoption. We'll take an hour and a half prior to the meeting and talk just about the capital improvement program budget. Those are all the construction projects that the city has put forward for inclusion in that year's budget. So if the city's going to do some work on street rehab on Diamond Bar Boulevard, that's going to be in the capital improvement budget. That would be part of that initial study session discussion where we're presenting it and getting feedback as we move forward to a final document. We'll go into the entire budget, the operating budget, the general fund budget that has all of the line items related to the services we provide, public safety and law enforcement, fire prevention, all of the key services that you use as a resident or that are key things that the council provides. We'll talk about those prior to the official budget deliberations and discussion and approval. Once we get all of that feedback, we'll incorporate that into a final document. That final document will be placed on an agenda that the council will be posted online, and then the council will discuss that matter and make a decision in open session. And so we use those to prepare for bigger ticket items that will be decided in public. And that's really what the study session is for. It's a little bit more informal, it's more conversational. It may get deeper into the weeds than a open session discussion will, because it helps the policymakers, the staff, and the public understand what's going to be contained in that final document and what it means as far as a policy decision. A closed session. This is the one meeting of the city council that's not open to the public, and that's where those exceptions that were on the previous slide come into play. If we're discussing a personnel matter, if we're negotiating to buy property, the other examples that were on there, that's where we'll meet in a confidential setting, discuss those, get direction from the city council. If there is reportable action that comes out, the city attorney will present that in the open session meeting to the members of the public. And while members of the public are not allowed to participate in the meeting or sit in the meeting, they do have the opportunity to provide comment based on what is on the agenda. So we have to put the government code section that the matter pertains to on the agenda, and the members of the public can come and provide comment prior to the meeting being closed to the rest of the public. All right, quiz time. We've got 100% so far. Let's see if we can keep it up. How long do city commissioners serve, and when do they start their term? I probably blew it. I don't remember talking about this, so you can blame this one on me if we don't get it right, but we'll learn it here. Is it 4 years starting in July of even-numbered years, 2 years starting March of even-numbered years, or 1 year starting in January of odd-numbered years? Any guesses, since I did not do my job? The answer is actually is B, 2 years starting in March of even-numbered years. And the way this works is it follows the general municipal election. And so we'll have, in 2026, we'll have an election. I believe there's 3 city council members up for election in that 2026 election. The results of the election will be certified by the end of the year, usually in December. And then this structure allows the newly seated council to then implement their commissioners for the following year. The commissioner process is open to the public. We accept applications. Those applications are provided to members of the council. Members of the council can then vet those applications, have meetings with those that they want to have meetings with, and present their recommendation to their colleagues on the council. Those placements on the commission by each member of the council are subject to ratification by their colleagues. So they take a vote, and then they finalize that vote. If it's accepted, those newly seated commissioners will take their seats in March. My apologies for missing that on the previous slide. All right, what types of decisions does the city council make at its regular meetings? Is it A, approval of contracts, B, budget adoption, C, land use decisions, D, passing of new policies, or E, all of the above? It is all of the above, that is correct. Which of the following is not an authorized open meeting law exception? Is it litigation, real property negotiations, voting to fill a vacancy, or personnel matters? C, voting to fill a vacancy. That's actually happened where the council had to vote to fill a vacant seat on the city council, and that was done in public session. I believe the last time that happened, it was in this room during the COVID era. Which of the following is not required by the open meeting law? Is it A, private meeting notice, B, keeping of meeting minutes, C, news media notification, or D, opportunity for public comment? It's B, keeping of meeting minutes. We do keep meeting minutes. The meeting minutes are available and adopted at a following meeting by the city council. We also bank the video from the council meeting and audio on the city's website, so if you missed a meeting, you can go back and watch the sections. You can click directly into whatever agenda item that you find interesting, and you can watch the comments and deliberations. Yes, sir?
The meeting minutes, they're written as the meeting occurred, right?
The meeting minutes are basically action minutes, and what they do is they state what happened. So, item 1.2, the city council voted this way, and that's essentially what they show. They're not like a transcript. They don't contain every statement that was made or anything like that, because we have the entire meeting on video and accessible on the internet.
So do you post them unofficially before they've been adopted by the next meeting?
No, they're presented as part of the packet, and so for the next meeting, if the minutes for last meeting are ready to be adopted by the council, they'll be put in the next meeting agenda. We're usually in the consent calendar at the beginning, and you'll see that attachment included with the agenda prior to the council approving it. You're welcome.
And how long will you said all these meetings will be loaded on the Diamond Board website, and how long will that actually stay? 1 week, 1 month?
I believe you have 2 full years.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Which of the following is not true about study sessions? They are open to the public, they are held on the same day as regular council meetings, they are meant for more in-depth discussion of specific issues, or D, official action is taken by the city council, which is not true. D, that is correct. No official action is taken. Again, staff might get direction to prepare an item for ultimate direction, but that would be placed on a future agenda in which the council would vote publicly on how to proceed. Which is not considered a public meeting? Is it A, conferences, trainings, and workshops, B, community forums and meetings of other government entities, C, social or ceremonial occasions, or D, all of the above? D. It's D. There are some exceptions in the Brown Act that allow for council members to attend public meetings. Something like this, council members could attend, and it would not be an official meeting of the city council. Other things, conferences and meetings of the League of Cities and things like that, where they're not taking official action, are also exemptions in the Brown Act. All right, moving on to section 3, city council meetings. So there are 3 types of meetings. Sorry, my voice is getting really sketchy. Sandy, can I get a bottle of water, please? I'm sorry to bother you. There are 3 different types of meetings. There are regular meetings, special meetings, and emergency meetings. And depending on the type of meeting, there are different requirements for posting and preparing of the agenda. Thank you. So regular meeting. This is held in the usual place. The city council establishes its standard place where they hold meetings. Our meetings, again, are held in the AQMD auditorium across the street. They're held on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of the month, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Those are the regular meetings. We have to post the agenda within 72 hours. 72 hours prior, we usually do it 96. The only items that can be discussed in those regular meetings are those that are placed on that agenda. Occasionally, there will be something, an exception based on city attorney review of the law, that something might be blocked on. That's very, very rare. That does not happen very often. Occasionally, an item that is published may get pulled from the agenda based on, an extenuating circumstance. 99.9% of the time, the items that are on the agenda that's posted are the ones that are discussed in the meeting. Special meeting, these are held as needed or for a special purpose that was not foreseen previously. These require 24-hour notice. We do have to notice this on our website and to any local news media as well to try to get the word out. If we were having a special meeting that was held in less time than the 72-hour period that is warranted for a regular meeting, we post that on our website, we put it out on our social media accounts. And we would do our best to get that out so that you would have the opportunity to participate. Same as regular meetings, the items that are on that special meeting agenda must be included and posted on the agenda that is put out to the public. So it has to be something that's on the agenda that is discussed. You're not going to see something that isn't on there being considered by the council with any direction being made. Emergency meetings, again, extremely rare, and these are in response to an emergency situation, usually related to public health, public safety, imminent threats. These may happen in less than 24 hours. If we had a major fire in the hills surrounding us and it required the city council to make an emergency proclamation, we may need to hold that meeting now. We try to give notice on all of our social media accounts. We'll put it out on the website. We'll try to get the word out as best we can. The minimum requirement by state law is that we notify the news media within 1 hour.
Excuse me, who is
Yes.
the news media?
So the state law, and I'm not going to profess to be an attorney, but essentially what the state law says, it's a newspaper of record. That law was written in a time when the news media was significantly different than it is now. And so we will put the word out via our channels. The Daily Bulletin, I believe, is the closest paper, or the San Gabriel Valley Tribune. We provide notice there. But again, things have shifted so much in the last 10 years, just even in the media landscape, that I don't even believe those papers qualify as newspapers of record locally by definition. That doesn't mean we wouldn't reach out to them and try to get the word out via their channels as well.
Not on YouTube or anything like that?
I'm sorry?
Not on YouTube or?
We would try to do that. I think that would be, if we had the ability to broadcast it on the usual channels, we would make every effort to do that. Yes. That's, when we've had those meetings, if the infrastructure is in place, we would do it. So last year, we completed a project, and here actually might have been this year, now that I remember, where we have the infrastructure now, you can see the cameras, we have the ability to broadcast here. With the infrastructure in place, the audio, the video capability. So if we had to have a meeting here that was not in our usual location, we'd be able to broadcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, agendas. As I mentioned before, I'm sorry if I stepped on these slides earlier in my comments. The agenda is available Thursdays. Minimum requirement would be Friday for the Tuesday evening meeting. We do our best to get it out on Thursday. The packet includes staff reports for each of the items, so you can read in-depth information about each of the items that are being presented to the City Council. Our agenda is posted online. It's also posted publicly in paper form at 3 different locations. Here in the AQ&D message board that's right outside the front door of the auditorium area, and the Heritage Park Community Center. I believe you also put a copy in the library as well. So if you don't want to walk upstairs to City Hall, you can just go right into the library and check it out there. I think the best way to do it, as Ms. Smith mentioned earlier, is to sign up for the Notify Me newsletter version of this, where it gets delivered directly to your email box as soon as it's published on the city's website. Again, we put this all online and it's available there. You can download it, you can just read it, you can look at the simplified agenda, which just lists the different items, or you can dig in deep and look at all the reports that go along with it. Sometimes, just words for the wise, depending on what's in the document, it can be hundreds of pages, depending on the topic. If there's a development project that has environmental documents, those are going to be attached to the agenda. Those could be 300 pages by themselves. Budget documents can be 200 plus pages. So if you ever have problems with the size of the agenda in your download, go to each of the items that you're interested in on the agenda and you can download those. So if you attend meetings or you look at the agenda and you sign up to receive it in your email box, you'll notice that there's a pretty standard format for the agenda. We have a standard order of agenda items in the way that we run a meeting. So the meeting starts right around 6:30 with a call to order. The mayor will call the meeting to order, we'll take roll, we'll begin the process. We'll do a pledge of allegiance and an invocation, usually led by a member of the council and then a local faith leader. The roll call will be called by the city clerk, so the city clerk will call out the names of each council member and they'll notify their presence for the record. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda, in which the city council will approve the agenda as submitted, or if there are any modifications, those will be read into the record at that time. The mayor is the presiding officer, and so the mayor runs the meeting. The city clerk, who is a member of the staff, helps to move the meeting along, takes roll when they take votes, is taking note of the action items that were taken by members of the council so that the minutes reflect accurately how they voted. If the mayor is not at the meeting, which happens occasionally, if they're out of town or unavailable, the mayor pro tem will step in as the presiding officer. From there, if the mayor and mayor pro tem isn't there, usually it's the most senior member of the council after that. Following the approval of the agenda, we'll move into special presentations, certificates, and proclamations. And so this is an opportunity for the city council to recognize members of the public, different groups in the community that have done good work. This can take the form of certificates, take the form of city tiles or plaques. Usually during this opportunity, the council will come down from the dais, stand in front of the dais, and meet with the individuals being recognized. Our staff will take photos. They'll have the opportunity to say a few words and be recognized by their members of the community. Following those certificates and proclamations and presentations, if there are any city manager updates, reports, recommendations, the city manager will provide those to the council at that time. Then we'll move on to public comments. This is where members of the public have an opportunity to speak on any consent calendar items or any other matters that are within the council's jurisdiction. There is a 5-minute limit to the comment period. I have to say, in most cities, it's not usually that long. Diamond Bar is one of the longer public comment periods. And that's something I think that members of the public appreciate, and it gives them a good opportunity to not only provide their comment, but provide some detailed background on why they're commenting and what opinions they have about whatever matter that they're interested in. I'll note that if there is a public hearing or if there's a council consideration item and you want to provide comment on that, you may be asked to hold off on your comment until that particular agenda item comes up. And so not all public comments are given during the public comment period. There may be public comments during a public hearing or during a council consideration item. Yes, ma'am.
Brian, could you touch upon, if you will, the style of our city council meetings? It's what they call a formal style versus the town hall style.
I'm not really sure what that means. I guess it's a matter of opinion in some respects, but.
I'm sorry, what it means is things like when you go make a public comment, the city council doesn't have to respond to that at all. They don't have to do anything, they don't have to respond to it. And I've talked to residents, and myself included, when you have a matter, you go to the city council meeting to present that matter, you may be seeking a response from them, and they have the freedom to not respond at all.
That is true.
And so my question is, how do we actually engage? How does the public engage the city council?
Well, I am, as you know, a member of the staff, and so I'm not an elected official, and I'm not going to speak for each member of the council's specific thoughts on that, but they do have the ability to respond. They can't take action, but that's subject to their own discretion, whether they want to respond. If, go ahead.
How does that get changed? Because I've been studying the Institute of Local Government, and that's wonderful, free websites.org. And they talk about the various styles of city council meetings. And they say, such and such a style is more effective than another style and so forth. And that's how I discovered we have what is called a formal style, which is really not responsive to the public so much as a town hall, for example. And I just want to know how can that change even happen?
So on occasion, you'll see, I think it's probably now that you've kind of provided a little extra context and understanding of the difference between the two. I think it's probably in all actuality a hybrid version. There is and there are many occasions in which an answer will be provided. Most often it's provided by the city manager. The council asks the city manager, can you respond to this particular issue? I think if you're interested in seeing a change in that, it would be to communicate that to your elected representatives. There are a number of ways to do that, and it's ultimately their decision as to how they want to proceed with their meetings.
But, so if I'm trying to create, I didn't even think through that. From an educational perspective, right? So if we are saying we have public comments, what is the objective of public comments? And if, I also was listening to a point you made that if there are comments, the council members will ask the city manager to respond, but technically the city manager is just an employee, the council members are the elected members, and thereby, like, if I think of Republican democracy, thereby the servants of people, for the lack of a better word, right?
So, the city council has the discretion and ability to respond, and they have on many occasions in the meetings that I've been in the last 20 plus years. They may not always choose to respond. They may ask staff to respond because staff has a lot of background on a particular service or program, and the administration of that service and program on a daily basis. So it really varies. It's not a hard and fast rule that there is no response. The hard and fast rule really is that the council can't take action on a matter that's brought to the city council during public comment unless it's something that's on that agenda. So if there's a new matter that's brought forward during comment, the council can consider that. They can ultimately direct staff to bring it back at a different meeting. That's happened on many occasions before as well.
So you can actually make a comment and be asked to put it on an agenda for the next meeting, thereby.
That could be, you could ask that. The council would then have to direct staff to bring it back to a subsequent meeting. And that's up to the policymaker. It's their discretion to decide what we do.
And in your reference of policymakers, those are the council members.
That's correct. Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, continuing on with the order of agenda items. Once we complete the public comment period, the city, this is not something that all cities do, but our city has a schedule of future events. And so this is where we'll talk about some of the special events, meetings, items of interest to the community that are taking place between that night's meeting and the next one that is scheduled following it. Then we'll move on to the consent calendar. These are items that are pretty routine in nature. These can be approved by the city council once they're read into the record with one motion and a vote, majority vote of the city council. So in the consent calendar, you're going to see items like the check register, the investment report, some basic kind of contract type items where we're procuring a service or what have you. Pretty routine, ongoing, administrative type items. Those again can be approved by one motion and then a majority vote of the council. The council does have the ability to pull an item from the consent calendar. So if a member of the council is listened to the items that have been read into the record and has an interest in asking questions or having additional follow-up from staff related to item 3.4, they can pull item 3.4, receive feedback from staff, have a discussion with their colleagues on the city council, and then take a vote separately on that item that's on the consent calendar. Excuse me. Most of the time, the consent calendar items are not pulled because they are pretty routine, and they'll be voted with a single motion. And so 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or however many items are on the consent calendar will be voted on with one vote. If there is a public hearing that would follow the consent calendar, this is held for specific matters that require by law a separate public hearing and public comment period. Some of these involve matters of policy, matters of development. These are fairly rare on our agendas, but when they are included, the city has additional noticing requirements that we have to do for public hearings, in addition to just the 72 hours. And so depending on what the item is, we may have to notice it up to 10 days in advance, post it in the newspaper, and all that kind of stuff. Again, during this time, if you have comments on the public hearing matter, you'll likely be asked to save those comments for when the public hearing is opened by members of the council, in which there will be a separate public comment period related to that item itself. The last main policy-making item that is on a kind of standard agenda would be council consideration. These are items that don't require a public hearing by law, but they do require council discussion. And this may be any type of a significant policy matter, it may be an ordinance, it may be a resolution related to a legislative decision. It could be a lot of different things, but this is very similar to a public hearing. You have the opportunity to speak on a matter, again, specific to the item that is in this particular agenda section, but it doesn't require the same noticing requirements that a public hearing would do by law. To close out the meeting, the last kind of action item that's on our agendas are council subcommittee reports and meeting attendance reports, and just general comments. And so if the members of the city council sit on a committee or a board, or they attended some type of conference or meeting or a town hall meeting in the city, this is the opportunity for them to share that with the public. This is an opportunity for them to share their thoughts on a number of different items. If they have something of interest that they'd like to bring forward, this is the opportunity that they can share that with their colleagues for confirmation and ultimately placement on a future agenda. Once that is complete, once all the members of the council have their opportunity to speak, adjournment takes place, we close the meeting out, and we wrap it up for the meeting and get ready for the next one. All right, let's quiz ourselves here about city council meetings. This type of meeting requires 24-hour advance notice to the public. Is that a regular meeting, special meeting, or emergency meeting? That's correct, B, special meeting. Which of these locations is not an official agenda posting location? Is it the Diamond Bar Center, City Hall, Heritage Park, or AQMD? That's right, it's the Diamond Bar Center. Now, if you went to the Diamond Bar Center looking for it, it's not an official posting location, but staff would help you get what you need, or at least they point you in the right direction. We have staff up there, part of our recreation, our Parks and Recreation staff, they'd be happy to help you out with that. City council meetings are called to order by the, is it A, city manager, B, mayor, or C, city clerk? It's B, the mayor. During which portion of the agenda can the public provide input and feedback? During the call to order, public comments, or roll call? B, public comments. And public hearings, and council consideration. Which of the following apply to public hearings? Is it A, required by state law, B, formal opportunity for the public to address the council, C, notices must be given 30 days in advance, or D, all of the above? D, that's correct. All right, we've made it to our final section, and this is where we're going to talk about how the city council takes action. All right, so there's 3 different ways that the city council takes action. It starts with a motion. This is one of the least formal ways that the city council can take action. This is usually used to approve a policy. It's more housekeeping matters, to establish procedures, provide direction to staff. This is when the city council member would say, I move to adopt X. That would be seconded by another member of the council, and a vote would be taken. It's also known in some cases as a minute order, but it follows a motion. There's a procedure that must be followed to formalize the action that's being taken. A resolution. This is the second most formal way of taking action by the city council. This is more formal, it's written, it memorializes a city council action in writing, and it becomes part of the official record. City council resolutions are kept in the city clerk's permanent archive. We keep them not only digitally, but on paper. They're signed with a pen, and they're kept in a fireproof safe so that they are preserved moving forward. Sometimes a resolution might be required by law. Sometimes a resolution might be required for the city to be to accept grant funds from the state or the federal government. Sometimes a resolution may be used just to state a legislative opinion of the city council. If the city council wants to support a particular piece of state legislation, they may use a resolution to state their support, provide written support. They may use it to provide opposition. In any case, it's a written and more formal way to take action. In most cases, the adoption of a resolution just requires a simple majority vote of the quorum that's on the dais that evening. There are a few exceptions, but those are few and far between. The third way the city council takes action is through the adoption of an ordinance. This is when the council is taking action to create a new local law or to change an existing part of the city code. So the city code is basically a compilation of all the ordinances that the city has adopted over the years. When the city incorporated from the county, many of the city's local laws were based on those of the county. It's a very significant undertaking to create an entire city code from whole cloth. Obviously, in the last 36 years, a lot of that has changed. There have been a number of different local laws that have been passed through the ordinance process. And there's a very specific way that most ordinances are adopted. Unless it's an emergency, you have to have multiple readings. And so we'll bring the item forward, usually under council consideration. There will be a presentation about the ordinance that is proposed. There will be an opportunity for the public to offer comment. The city council will deliberate, and then they will vote on it. If they move to approve the first reading, we'll move to a second reading at a subsequent meeting. At that second meeting, the council will again have the opportunity to vote and approve the second reading. And then there's usually a cooling off period of 30 days before that approved ordinance becomes local law. There are very few exceptions. An emergency measure may have a shorter cooling off period. It may not require multiple readings, but by and large, most of them are approved in 2 meetings and then include a 30-day cooling off period afterwards. The council can adopt emergency ordinances. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a niche question.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. If the council adopts a zoning ordinance that conflicts with the general plan, is it automatically no, or does somebody have to sue?
It should have to be consistent. The general plan sets the zoning, and so if there's something that's inconsistent, that's not usually something that would be acceptable. Yes?
Okay, I don't want to get really into this, but Ron, could you please talk about how cities have the right to ignore the ordinances like categorical exemptions for CEQA?
I don't feel comfortable at this time getting into the CEQA
Right.
stuff. I'd be happy to take your question and respond back to you. I don't want to give you, I'm not a planner or an attorney. I want to make sure that I get you the right information. So I'd be happy to.
Just generally speaking, I don't want to get into the weeds on that. But
Sure.
I wanna-
My understanding of categorical exceptions is that there are very few specific exceptions to CEQA where it doesn't require the same level of environmental study. And those are set in the law itself, and it's up to the city to determine if the particular project that's being proposed meets those exception
There's
requirements.
other laws too, like I discovered there's a code about leaf blowers in LA, and it's never enforced, but it's on the books. And so I've noticed, some cities will, for whatever reason, decide to just not get involved with.
I think, I can't speak for LA County, but I think in a hypothetical situation like that or a rhetorical one, a lot of the time it comes down to the resources necessary to handle it. Again, I won't speak for the county, but I assume that they don't have enough code enforcement officers available throughout their large radius to cover every last leaf blower. And they probably focus on items that are of higher impact and priority. I think that's a reality for most government agencies, in that there are a lot of things on the books, there are a lot of laws, and it's less about ignoring them and more about being able to have the resources necessary to respond to each of them. Now, I'm not using that as an excuse, but in a leaf blower case, I imagine that they're responding to more unsafe construction and that kind of stuff.
It's like, don't we have a smoking ordinance in our parks?
We do, we have a no smoking ordinance in the
And
parks.
how can that be enforced, or just what's the practical?
So there are a number of ways that could be enforced. Our local law enforcement officers could respond to that, or code enforcement officers, if they're available, could respond to that. It's in the city code, it's a misdemeanor offense. Most of the time, I would say that it's going to be used as an opportunity to educate prior to being immediately enforced. I have not received a single call yet since that was put on the books. And I'll take that as a sign that there's probably limited situations where that occurs. If you're in a park and somebody's smoking, call us and we'll see if we can get somebody out there.
We have postings now, don't we, signage?
There is signage out there, yes. It's very similar to, that situation is very similar to something like a dog that's off a leash. So that's a violation of the code. But somebody that has the ability to enforce it and cite it has to witness it and be available. We do not have animal control officers or code enforcement officers stationed in every park all the time. And so, again, if you see it, call us. We'll do our best to go out there and address it. Yes.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for doing these presentations. They're very organized and they're very.
Well, that's because of Cecilia and Sam, not because of me.
Anyway, thank you for doing them. I have a question, it's more of a policy question. I noticed that public safety is, of course, one of the functions of the city.
Yes.
And I also understand that we only have like 3 police officers that are
No.
sheriffs or.
That is not the case. The city has 16 sworn deputies that it pays for through the budget on an annual basis. We have different shifts, and so the personnel is split in different shifts. There are 3 different shifts. There's mornings, PMs, and then evening, early morning shift. We have dedicated patrol deputies, 3 to 4 per shift, that are out, and then we supplement those with 5 special assignment team deputies. And the special assignment team deputies are essentially our community policing force, and so they're the utility players that can go out and address mail theft, burglary suppression, any type of trending issue. You'll see them this time of year a lot out providing traffic education enforcement around the schools, since school started fairly recently and people are still getting back into the swing of the traffic. And so no, we don't just have 3. We have 16. Sometimes those are even supplemented with members of the detective unit, teams that come in from downtown as part of LASD major crimes, or any of their other supplemental personnel that they have.
My question really is a policy question. In some cities, the police, that they have a policy that the police do not cooperate with ICE issues. What is the Diamond policy?
Diamond Bar has not set a policy on that, and so any policy that is a direction to deputies is going to be handled by the county and the sheriff. And so the city has taken no action on that itself, and if any direction is given, that would come through the county to their department.
I was thinking, a number of years ago, the problem started in LA, and started having riots and burning. And it did this day in LA, it went all the way up to Pasadena, to Washington, just moved. So something that's not one place, spreads really quickly sometimes. And I'm just wondering, we have a reputation for being a wonderfully safe city. Look at that.
I don't have any comment on that. I believe Diamond Bar in general remains one of the safer cities in San Gabriel Valley. We have our challenges. Most of our challenges are associated with property crimes. 90+% of the crime we have is property crime. But the city has no jurisdiction over what action any federal agency takes, no matter if it's the FBI, ICE, anyone else. And we haven't taken any specific action related to that. But I believe based on what I hear from our deputies, what I hear from members of the public that have attended our public safety town hall that we just had a couple weeks ago, that in general, the city remains a pretty safe place and will continue to work to keep it that way. Okay. All right, I didn't hit tie votes. This is a rarity because most of the time we have 5 members of the council sitting on the dais at a time. In the occasion that we have 4, and there's a tie vote, the motion would fail on a tie until a revote gets us to a point where someone changes their vote and there's a majority. And if it remains a tie, the motion would fail. All right, so we made it through. Thank you for sticking with me, and I apologize for my voice starting to fade here. As I mentioned earlier, this program itself, the public safety, Let's Talk Public Safety event, both of these are really opportunities for us to expand, to get to meet you, to have the discussions, to have some back and forth and answer questions. But that's not the only way that we do it. We have a lot of different ways here for you to contact us, whatever you prefer, whether it's social media, whether it's email, whether it's snail mail, whether you want to walk into City Hall and talk to somebody at the counter, whether you'd like us to deliver items to you via email, whether you'd like to report a concern. We have all these options that I'll go through. I won't pretend to know every one of the social media accounts, but if it exists, we probably have one. That number at the top there is our general line, and you can reach our receptionist and then be routed to the appropriate department that you're reaching for. That's our general email line, and you can just email us and we'll make sure it gets to the appropriate department based on your inquiry. City Hall, for the most part, if you have questions about service, if you need a permit, if you have questions about city council action, coming to City Hall is probably the best location if you want to come in person. Diamond Bar Center is more Parks and Recreation focused. Our staff there will do their best to help you, but just for your own knowledge, if you have a question that's not Parks and Recreation related, your best bet if you want to come in person is to come to City Hall during the hours that we're open. We're open 5 days a week. Notifications, the Notify Me email down here, the website down there is a great place. You can sign up for whatever interests you and have it delivered to your email box. Reporting a concern, this is kind of our service request website access. This is a great place to report a pothole. If you want to remain anonymous and report a code enforcement violation in your neighborhood, this is a great place to do it. If you have a non-emergent public safety concern, report it here. Please do not report anything that is a violation of the law, a crime, something like that that is impactful, because this isn't an immediate response, right? This is for service. We'll get back within 24 to 48 hours. If you have an issue that requires law enforcement assistance, call the station immediately or call 911 depending on the level of emergency. I have had people report crime incidents via this, and it takes a little time, and if it's the weekend, you may have to wait till Monday. That's no good when you're the victim of a crime. And so please call the sheriff's station or 911 depending on what it is. I always bring that up in these discussions. Here's my contact. You can email me, call me. I'm generally available most of the week. As I said before, I will do my best to answer your questions. I'm not going to pretend to be the oracle of all things government. I would challenge you to find anybody that could say that with a straight face. But if I don't know the answer, I will find somebody who can. And if it's something that's outside my expertise, I'll get you to the right person to talk to them about it. And so I have cards available as well. If you want to, after the meeting, get a card, I'll provide you with my card. Otherwise, you can take a photo of this and you know how to get a hold of me. And so with that, before we get to prizes, are there any other questions?
I do.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
was actually piggybacking on her question because, like, you know, we are in an interesting time, right? Exactly, I don't know how else to say it, but a lot of times when I am seeing in social media or YouTube, I see other cities, maybe Portland, maybe Washington, some place in Washington State where people, talk in council meetings, just try to understand what's going on at the federal level, how is that impacting us? But I do not see that level of, yes, thank you very much, engagement in Diamond Bar. I'd love to be, what is that bird or whatever that puts its head in the sand and thinks nobody's watching it? I would love to be that, but we cannot be in a situation where we are. And that's another thing I'm trying to figure out, if that is the case, because public comments will not help. So how can we engage the city council, who would also alleviate or reduce the concern that a lot of citizens of Diamond Bar may or might not have. We are generally a safe place, but sometimes knowledge is the power, right?
Can I say something before we get into that? That's brief.
Sure.
Public records requests. Can you please tell the class that they have the right to see any documentation on any matter that's in the agenda? They can request those documents, because the city puts everything in writing, right? It does the business of the people. So that's a starting reading about the matter.
Well, sure, I'll start by answering the first question. I mean, to be honest with you, the city of Diamond Bar does not have any jurisdiction or authority over county policy, state policy, regional policy, federal policy. I would advise, if you have concerns that are related to federal decision-making that's outside the jurisdiction of the decision-making power of the city, you have concerns with that, share that with your elected representative. Email them, call them, come to a meeting. I will say that the city has very limited ability to take action on that. We do not have jurisdiction over any of those decisions. But I understand that people have concerns that are much bigger than just within our boundaries. And so with any resident, I would advise them, if they have concerns that they want to bring forward to their elected representatives, to do so. And there are a number of ways to do it. You can do it in public during a meeting. You can email, you can call, and you can have those conversations with those that represent you.
Yeah, it's not about influence, it's about trying to understand, trying to educate is where I was looking at, because I am, Oregon is a fantastic example. For some reason, I always feel like Oregon town hall meetings are a lot more open, collaborative, and communicative. That way, it's almost educational, where citizens understand what's going on, not just in their city, but also, at a cross level, right? Because if you're looking at hierarchy, that's what any organizational hierarchy or governmental hierarchy is all about. So I was just curious.
Okay. Public records requests. There is state law that the Public Records Act provides that agencies must provide responses to a public request for documents associated with whatever topic that the request is made under. There are a few exceptions if it's related, if it has attorney-client privilege, that's generally the most common exception. The city has a specific time frame to respond. There are provisions within the law for exceptions or extensions, depending on the nature of the request. We have a system online where you can submit your public records requests online and make those requests directly to the city clerk. The city clerk is the custodian of records for the city, and so she will be the one that coordinates the response. There are a number of ways for you to collect your public record. If it is in digital form and we have it in digital form, we can deliver it to you via email, so you don't have to come down here. If it's something outside of that or it doesn't exist in digital form, you may have to come to City Hall. And so we have a portal on our website. Forgive me, I don't know the exact URL off the top of my head, but if you went on our city website and you went into the city clerk section, I believe that there's a link directly there where you can make your requests. Yes?
So I feel like Mr. McLean has a hard job and pretty famous job. So if if we can all just take a moment to clap for everyone.
I also made sure I gave you great reviews because you've done a fantastic job of things that.
Oh, come on, that was your opportunity to let me have it.
No, you were wonderful. You were collaborative, you answered all the questions. You tried navigating politically correctly and really well. So thank you all, we appreciate that. And you provided education.
Well, again, I appreciate you being here. You have to take time out of your day to spend a couple hours coming down here, and it shows that you care about what's happening in the community, and we appreciate that. And so thanks for being here. I do have prizes, though. What do we have tonight?
They need some.
Oh, yes, I know there was some that didn't get a ticket. Let me make sure you get one. Who did not get a ticket? Who didn't get a ticket?
They did.
You didn't get a ticket.
They don't know, they should get it.
Anyone else not get a ticket? Anybody else? All right, we're good. I'll pick the first one. What do we have?
Some lunch pails with some diamond parts swag inside, water bottles, playing cards, pens, and notepads. A lot of goodies in here.
Let's treat everybody like kindergartners and give gifts to everybody.
So the way
You get
we usually do this, I pick the first one, and then whoever wins has to pick the rest. So we're going off the hook. Here we go. 255-7326. Ending in 26. My last three numbers are 326. All right. Congratulations. All right. Let's shake these up. Ending in 323.
323.
I am 323. Thank you.
All right, this is going to be our last one. Pressure's on.
325.
325. Congratulations.
You can take your list.
If I'll be sticking around as we clean up. If you have any questions that I wasn't able to answer in front of the group, I'll be here. And again, thank you all for taking the time to join us. We appreciate it. And if you're interested, we'll be back here next month for our last one of the year.
Thank you so very much, Mark. Appreciate it.